If you're someone who's looking to create a slideshow or scrolling screens on iMac screens or computer screens, tablet screens, or even iPhone screens, you can easily do that inside CreateStudio 3. Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Ali, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a scrolling screen inside CS3. And before we dive deeper into this, I've got an example that I want to share with you. Let's watch it and come back and have fun creating. I hope you've enjoyed watching the example, and I just want to say something before we start creating, that this type of effect is really helpful for those who are into web design, UI and UX design, that they can go ahead and share their portfolio in a more dynamic and engaging way to their prospects. Instead of showing their work via screenshots, they can easily create more dynamic videos and share that work with their clients to tell them, hey, this is the type of examples that we have. This is how your website is going to look like. It's more engaging, more dynamic, and you're going to have a better response from your clients or prospects than showing them the typical screenshots. And also those who are into teachings, like are working like teachers, and are in the educational industry, they can also use that. And for those who are into motion graphics and business owners, this effect is also useful for them because you can create a slideshow in different screen sizes, like computer screens, mobile screens, or even tablet screens. So you can take your animations to the next level by displaying a slideshow or a multiple scene show inside your screen, because you can do this in any way you want. That you can have screens scroll in all directions, from top to bottom, left to right, and vice versa on all directions. So without further ado, let's dive in right into this and show you how you can easily create a scrolling screen inside CS3. Additionally, I'm going to show you how to use a hand holding a mouse to take control on what's being displayed on the screen. So that will be a nice addition that you can have in your videos as well. And it's going to look like there's somebody who's actually, mouse moving the stuff on your screen in your videos, which is going to look more engaging that way. So yeah, let's not waste more time and start creating and really just have fun. So first things first, I'm gonna start by removing this from my this design from my screen right now, and then we will start with the iMac screen. So first of all, I'm gonna need to go to my studio, and I simply just want to use the search bar and type in Apple. And then I'm going to get those results. All I need to do is simply keep scrolling until I find the iMac screen that I want to use, and then drag and drop it. Make sure it is downloaded so you can drag and drop it in your scene. Next, I'm going to drag it a little bit to the left side so we can have enough space for the hand that's going to take control of what's being displayed on the screen. And so in order to start showcasing your website, for example, you're going to need a tool that can screenshot your website, and then you can, import it into CreateStudio's library or folder and start using it. So I'm going to share with you a Google Chrome extension that allows you to take screenshots of your website. Let's just go ahead and show you that right now. So this is my Chrome browser. And so if I want to take a snapshot, the extension that I'm going to use is called Awesome Screen Recorder and Screenshot. You can easily just search on, go to google.com and then search for Google extensions, and then go to the website and then use the search bar to type in Awesome Screen Recorder and Screenshot, and then make sure that you install the extension to your browser, and it'll just look like this. There's going to be an icon that shows in the top right corner of your screen where it allows you to click it and then start taking screenshots. So how can you do that? Let's say this is my website and I want to take a screenshot of it. I can simply just click on the icon right there, and then I need to click on capture because it's usually on record. So you can do a screen recording, by the way. But in this example, we're only going to go for a screen capture, right? Because we want to animate the whole thing inside CS rather than just do a screen recording on our browser. So we're going to click on capture, and then you have multiple options to select from. The first one is visible part. So basically it's going to take a screenshot of what is being visible. So if I only want to take a snapshot of just what's being displayed on the browser, I'll simply choose visible part, and that will just take a snapshot of it. If I want a full page, then I'm going to click on the full page, and that will take a snapshot of it. So if I do that right now, you'll see that it starts loading up. It's taking the snapshot of the entire screen and scrolling until the bottom of it. And then now it has my screenshot. All right, there you go. I have a full screen of my website right there. What you can do is simply click on download, and then it's going to ask you where you want to download it on your local storage. And then from there, once you download it, you can drag and drop it into CS's media folder and then start creating. In this effect, you may need, so if you have a website, you can follow along with me. If you don't have a website, you can just search any website on the internet just to try it out yourself and get the hang of it. And then, later down the road, once you understand the concept on how to create something like this, then you can go on with your creativity and use whatever example you have in mind. So you can do this by taking a snapshot of the entire page and also take a snapshot of the visible part, so we can have two screens. So let me go back into the CS and show you the type of media folders that or media files that we're gonna work with. This one, that is just a screenshot of my home page. It's just part of it, right? And then the second one is going to be a full snapshot of my website. And this is going to be the one that we're going to use to have it scroll inside the iMac screen. So once we get that covered, like I said, we need to have our iMac screen towards the left side of our screen. And then we were simply just going to add a rectangle shape, and we're going to use that as our mask. So let's just grab a rectangle by hitting the shift key and the letter R to grab a rectangle, or you can simply click on the plus sign that shows in the top left right next to the left panel. Click that, and then you are going to have the option to choose between rectangle, circle, and all of those shapes. Just need to grab a rectangle shape, and then I'm going to make sure that the rectangle is exactly the same size of my iMac screen right there. And when done, it doesn't have to be perfect, by the way. It just needs to cover the entire, frame of the screen from the inside. And then we're going to rename this and call it screen mask. All right. And we will just hide it for now. So we're going to right click and then hide the image just for now. Next, we wanted to start by displaying our homepage, and then we will start scrolling, right? So what I'm going to do is I will drag my image right there, which is basically the screenshot of just the upper part of my website. And then I'm going to resize it. Just make sure that it goes into my screen like this. Right here. And so you can see that the screen is wider than my iMac screen. That's not a problem. We can easily just click on the distort icon that shows on the top or above the image right there. Here, the first icon. This will open up the distortion feature, allowing you to drag the website from all corners and make sure that it actually goes inside, or it fits inside the iMac screen, just like that. And then when you're done, you can simply deselect the image and you're good to go. So we now have a perfect home page on our iMac screen, which is amazing. That's pretty cool. We could just scale it up just to make it a little bit bigger right there. So it's 41. Let's set it up to 42% like this. And then we are good to go. Next, we want to start grabbing the hand icon. So by the way, I'm going to leave a link to the image of this hand that you can use in your video. Once you grab it, drop it onto the canvas, and then you want to flip it so that it looks right. So while you have it selected, we're going to go to properties, and then the last option is going to say flip. So we just need to flip it the other way, and then now it's perfectly fine. We can start using it, and make sure that if you want to use different hand styles with holding a mouse, you got to make sure that the arm is quite long, like this one, or even longer. The longer the arm is, the better, because this will give you more space to freely move and animate the hand and make it go around and control the movements and what is being displayed on your IMAX screen. And so once you have it right there, we're just going to set it up on the right side like this. If you want to make it smaller than that, it's really up to you how you want to do it, but I'm just going to keep it like that. And then I'll just extend all my layers in the timeline up until, let's do 10 seconds just for now, like that. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to grab my website, right? So this is going to be my whole page that I took a snapshot of. And then, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my playhead is actually going to start at 5 seconds. And then I'm going to grab my website right there. And then, not to be confused with the website screen, we can just right click that one and click and choose hide, just to be able to hide it just for now. And then we're going to start using this guy. So for this one, we're going to need to scale it up to make it fit into the IMAX screen. How? We can simply just hold the Alt button on our keyboard, and then we can grab the image from any of the 4 corners and then scale it up that way until we have a nice fit onto our screen like this. We may want to make it smaller. So let's just make sure like that. There you go. All right, we're good to go. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to have it scroll to the top of the page, because that will be the first thing that we want to see. And then we can start creating our animation and have it slide to the bottom. Right? So we got everything that we need in our timeline. I think we're good to go. Now is the time to start working with what's on there. So let's just go back into our website screen, right click and choose show to be able to show it right there. And then we want to make sure that the IMAX screen is on top of all the layers. So we're going to grab the IMAX screen and drag it above all the layers, just so we have a perfect frame in there. And just make sure that your website page is looking perfectly fine inside the IMAX screen. Next, we want to grab an arrow that we are going to use, which is going to be it's going to be the cursor that we're going to use inside the IMAX screen. So we're going to go back to our studio and then click on the back arrow right there. And then we can just scroll down until we find where it says cursor. So we click that, and then you're going to have a different cursor styles that you can choose from. You got 3D ones, you got 2D ones, you got more cartoonish style ones, right? And then you have a couple of retro images as well, which is pretty cool, right? Now, so the one I'm going to use is going to be the Pointer Classic mouse. So I'm going to drag and drop it right there, and then I'm going to scale it down to make it smaller, just like this. And then we are good to go. So I'm going to start with my mouse being right here. I also want to make sure that my mouse, image or layer in the timeline is extended all the way until the end. So it should be lined up with the rest of the layers so we can start creating our animation. So the first thing I want to do is I want to create an animation for my cursor and have it go onto the home page, for example, to click on that tab, and then we should just start loading, the website to have it scroll down. So what I'm going to do is I have my cursor selected, then I'll just keep it there for 1 second with no movement. So I'm going to have my playhead start at 1 second. Then I'm going to start making adjustments. So all I'm going to do is you click on add animation above the timeline, use the properties, and I'll choose position. Easing is going to be as is, so I'm not making changes to that. I will then select my second keyframe and simply drag my cursor all the way right there on the home tab on my website right there. And then I want to go back and make sure that my playhead is on the first keyframe of my cursor. Why? Because we want to animate the hand and make it move in the same direction the cursor is going to move on the screen as well. So I'm going to make sure that I have my hand selected. I'll simply click on add animation and I'll do the same thing. So we're going to do position, easing is as is. Now I have my 2 keyframes. I'll simply select my second keyframe and then make sure that I drag my hand a little bit to the left side so it kind of like moves in the same direction where my cursor is on the screen. So now if we go back right there, we can just press play, and this is how it's going to look like. Just go back again, take a look, and there you go, right? So now we have this setup, and then it's time for us to create some type of effect to the cursor if we want to. So if we're looking to create, like additional effects to the cursor, we can easily do that by grabbing a circle layer, or shape. So we can do that by hitting the Shift key and the letter C to add a circle on our canvas. And then I'm going to open up the color settings and then make sure that I turn this into a transparent circle. How? We can just simply grab the circle that's underneath the color palette right there. We can just drag it all the way to make our shape transparent. And then we want to go back into our settings. And then we have the border settings that we'd like to add. So first things first, we change the cursor color, our border color, from gray to black, like this. And then I'm going to add some border width right underneath it, like this. So we now have a nice one. I think 6 is quite a lot. We can actually do 4 instead. It's just because it's too big, but we're gonna scale it down. Next, we want to scale down the circle right there and then position it where our mouse or our cursor is on our screen, just like this. And then we may want to duplicate the circle or the border that we created just by hitting the Control or Command D to create a duplicate. And then we're going to drag this one like a couple of frames after in the timeline. So there's going to be a difference between the first layer and the second border just by a couple or three frames, right? And then what we want to do is we want to select the first border that we created and go to motion on the right panel, click that, and then we're going to create a loop animation. So we're going to click on, we will choose loop, and then from there we can go to a scale, and I'll use out and in. So I'll click that, and then I'm going to change the value of the zoom effect from 10% to 24%, like this. As far as number of loops, I can have it do 2 loops, and then I will just extend it all the way until the end. And then make sure that I copy this loop animation and paste it onto the other border that I created. You can easily do that by selecting the out and in button on the border that we created, and then click on Control C or Command C, just how you normally would when copy and pasting. You just Control C and then go to your second layer, and then make sure that you do Control V to copy it, and that it goes all the way from start to finish, all the way like this. Now when I play it, now we're going to have a nice effect right there. So we can now select both layers in the timeline like that. Oops, let's just make sure these guys are selected like this. All right, it's not letting me select for some reason, so I will have to extend this a little bit more so I can select this and then select that too. And then I want to group both together. So this will be the cursor effect. So we can rename that layer and then call it cursor effect right there. And we will need to shrink this down. So this should happen for a very short period of time. It should just happen, for a couple of seconds right there, like this, or maybe just less than a second, actually, like that. So let's just have a look at that so far and take a look. Yep. There you go. Now we might want to, scale this down and make it smaller than that. So we could just zoom in and, make this one smaller like this. So it doesn't do, it's not so obvious like this. And then we want to make sure that the cursor effect goes underneath the cursor image in the timeline. So we grab our group of the border that we created, and then grab it and make sure it goes underneath the cursor image. So now when we go back up to the very beginning, press play, this is how it's going to look like. And then now it is time to start displaying the scrolling screen. So in order to start doing that, we need to make sure that the image, our website screenshot, is basically going to end up exactly where it is. So we're just going to have our playhead right at the end of the cursor effect. And then we're going to click on the cut image, so we can cut that image right there, and then delete it because that will be just the end of it, right? When done, now it's time for us to display the website where we have a full page right there. So as you can see, once we grab it in, you can see that we have the entire image being displayed right there. But don't worry, that's the reason why we have a mask ready for us to use. The next thing I want to do is I want to drag and make sure that the image layer is extended so that it's lined up with all my layers in there. And then if you still remember, we have created a mask that we hidden in the past, right? So now we have the screen mask rectangle that's at the bottom of the timeline. We just need to right click and click on show. Now we have our mask ready. So all we're going to do is we're going to select our website snapshot, right? And then we're going to use a track mask to apply this. So what I'm going to do is I'll simply just go have my website screenshot selected, go to settings on the right panel and find where it says track matte, open that up, and then simply just open the drop down menu, and then I'm going to choose the screen mask that we just created. And don't forget to change the type from Luma to Alpha right there, so we can see the full website image in its in its fully colorful like this. And then now it is time to start creating our animation. So you can see that the website has now been masked, so we don't see the rest of the page underneath the iMac screen anymore. And so right now it's time for us to create our animation and start animating the website. So here's what we're going to need to do. We're going to select our website image right there, right? And then we're going to start creating an animation. So I'm going to click on add animation. I'll do properties and I'll choose position, and then I will click on the easing tab, and then I'll choose linear for both in and out, and I'll just drag my second keyframe all the way until, let's do until 9 seconds right there. And then make sure that your second keyframe is still selected, and with your keyboard you can simply just hit the shift key along with the bottom arrow key, the up arrow key, so you can scroll your website all the way to the bottom just like that, and then let it go until the end of the website, or display whatever you want. But that's basically how I'm going to do it in my website. Just display the whole website screen from top to bottom like this. So now if we go back right there and then show you what it looks like, now we're going to have a nice slideshow for our website scrolling through the screen, which is pretty cool. If you want to make it slower, that's really up to you. You can easily do that. So I can, click on or select all my layers in the timeline and extend these guys all the way to 15 seconds, and then drag my second keyframe to about 14 seconds, for example, right there. And then let's just go back and then have a play. Now we're going to have a nice slower motion of our website. So again, it's really up to you how you want to display your website information on the website, inside the iMac screen. Whether you want to do this slower or faster, it's up to you how you want to decide it. Now that we created this, let's just jump on and start, working with the rest of the stuff. So what is required now is we need a scrolling bar that's always on the right side of the screen that we always use. Remember, when you're about to scroll your website, usually use the scroll button to scroll down. But what if you want to use the scroll bar that's on the website? Normally, when you move your cursor to the right side of the page, you should be able to see a scroll bar to be able to take control of your screen and keep scrolling up and down. So this is the type of effect that we're going to create. How? We can simply do this by grabbing a rectangle shape by hitting the shift and the letter R to grab a rectangle. Then I'm going to hold the Alt key so I can, first of all, turn this into rounded corners all the way like this. And then I'm going to hold the Alt key and drag my rectangle from the right side like this, so I can make it a rounded vertical rectangle like that. And then I'm going to change its color from blue to the darkish gray-ish like that. And then I want to make sure that I resize this guy like this, and we want to make it really thin, so we're just going to resize it like that and then drag it like this. This looks perfect. Now we can drag it to where we want it, which is going to be on the right side of our screen. Let's just like I said, let's take a look and see what it looks like. Yep, there you go. We might want to drag it a little bit to the right side so it's perfectly lined up with the screen frame on the right side, just like this, and then we're good to go. Now we want to make sure that this guy is sticking around with us until the end. So this also has to be extended all the way until the end, just like this. And then, and of course, we want to make sure that it goes underneath the cursor layer, right? So it goes like this, and then it's perfectly lined up with all the layers. And now it is time for us to grab my cursor to where the scroll bar is. And so the first thing we want to do before the scroll bar being visible like that, what I would do is I'm going to go to motion, and then I'll use fade so I can have a nice fade in once the cursor shows up on the right side, right? Just to make, create a cool animation. So I'm going to go to fade and then use fade in. Then I'm going to shrink down just, to speed up the fade in animation right there. And then I'm just going to make sure that I have my playhead start right from the very beginning of the image right there. And I'll now start animating my cursor. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my circle, click it, and then I'll start using keyframes. So I'll click on add animation. Easing is going to be smooth, that's fine. We will just do properties and I'll choose position, and then I'm going to select my second keyframe right there, and then make sure that I drag my cursor to where my scroll bar is. Don't worry about this being displayed on top of the screen. We will take care of that later, but now let's just focus on what we're trying to create. So once we got that covered, our cursor is right there now pointing on the scroll, the scroll bar right there. Now it's time to have it go all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to start by clicking the scroll bar that we created, and I'll use some keyframes. So click on add animation, position, easing is going to be linear for both in and out. And then I'm going to drag my second keyframe and make sure that this guy go all the way until the end. Make sure it is perfectly lined up with my scrolling screen right there. And I think the first keyframe also has to be the same. So let's take a look at that. Let's just grab the first keyframe for the scrolling image as well and make sure that these guys are perfectly lined up like this, so everything starts at the same time, because that's when the scrolling is going to start happening, when the cursor is going to use the scroll bar and scroll all the way to the bottom like this. So it shouldn't just start moving until we start, we make movements right there. So I think I got my scroll bar perfectly fine. I just need to select my second keyframe, and then I'm going to use the shift key and the bottom arrow key to drag my scroll bar all the way to the bottom of my screen right there. Let's just have a look at the bottom and see where it is. Yeah, something like that is quite perfect. And then we're good to go with that one right there. So we have a nice scroll bar right there, scrolling alongside the scrolling screen or snapshot of our website, which is pretty handy. Next, we want to make sure that we go with the arrow or the cursor as well in the same direction. So we're going to click on the cursor image, and then from there, we will click on add animation, and I'll do position. So easing is going to be linear as well. Properties will be position, and I'll simply just drag my second keyframe all the way until the end right there. Make sure it is lined up with the rest of the keyframes in the timeline. And then I'm going to drag my cursor just by holding the shift key and the bottom arrow key to grab my cursor all the way like this. It should just be like that. Now we have a nice scrolling cursor along with this. Let's have a look at that. And there you go. All right, pretty cool. The only thing that's left to do now is just continue to animate the hand holding the mouse or using the mouse to control what is being displayed on our screen. So now it's time for us to do that. So right here, where the mouse was, or where the cursor was on the home tab on our screenshot, we're now going to select the hand image, right? And then I'm going to click on add animation. I'll do position. Easing is going to be as is, so it should be smooth right there. And then I'm going to select my second keyframe and simply just drag the image to the right side and just make it go to the bottom just a little to align with the movement of our cursor right there. And we're good to go. So look at that. All right, it's perfectly moving along with the cursor, perfectly fine right there. Next, we want to have the hand also slide to the bottom as it slides the cursor, right? Or it's controlling the cursor being slided down to the bottom of the screen. So where we're at on the second keyframe of our movement, we still have the hand selected. We're going to click on add animation, and then we're going to go to easing is going to be linear. Properties will be position. And then now I want to drag my second keyframe all the way and make sure it is also lined up with the rest of the keyframes and on the screen or in the timeline like this. And then we can simply make sure it is selected, and we can drag the hand slowly to the bottom just like that. Something like this is quite fine. So now we have the entire effect applied. So let's take a look. All good. Tapping and then scrolling through all the way to the bottom. this is just incredible. It's really amazing. I love this type of effect, and you can do this, you know, with lots of in different ways. I can show you that in other examples in different tutorials where you can create scenes inside CreateStudio, like using the CSS backgrounds and characters, and have screens slide inside your iMac or tablet or even mobile screens. I'll show you that later on in other tutorials. So be sure to subscribe, like and subscribe, and follow my channel, and make sure you turn on the bell for notifications when I release new content. And I didn't forget about masking the cursor, so we got that covered already. It's working perfectly fine. All I gotta do is simply grab a rectangle shape by hitting the shift and the letter R to grab a rectangle, and make sure that it's perfectly lined up with the frame of my iMac screen from the right side, because that's the part where the cursor is going to be hidden as soon as it goes to the right side, right? Just like normally when you move your cursor all the way to the right side of your screen, it starts to disappears and show parts of it. When done, you're good to go now. You can resize this, but it really doesn't doesn't matter. But then you want to make sure that you extend this all the way until the end, just like that, and it goes perfectly fine. Then we can rename this guy and then call it mouse mask, just to make sure that we're all organized. Next, you want to select your cursor image in the timeline that has all the keyframes that we created, and simply go to settings and then click where it says track matte, open the drop down menu, and then choose mouse mask that we just created right there, and then make sure you turn the type from Luma to alpha, and yeah, we're good to go. Now let's just start and showing you this whole thing from start to finish, so you can enjoy doing that. Let's have a look. There you have it. Clicking on the home tab, scrolling, and you can see the cursor is now hidden right there, perfectly fine. It's just amazing. But yeah, that's how you can create a scrolling screen inside iMac screen. So if you understand the concept of how to create something like this, I'm pretty sure you can create similar effects in mobile screens. You can do the same effect in tablet screens. But if you like to see me doing that, be sure to comment below, and ask me for more tutorials, or just say, tablet screens or mobile screens, whatever you prefer, and I'll make a tutorial about it. And, once it's released, I'll let you know. But again, you have to turn on the notifications by clicking on the bell icon, so you are the first to know when I release new videos. But yeah, that's pretty much it for our tutorial today. I really hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.